Welcome to the On Your Mind podcast, where we believe mental illness can be temporary and transformative. Stay tuned for innovative, effective tools from experts in the field of mental health. Hosted by Timothy J. Hayes, psychologist. This podcast aims to change the narrative around mental illness. Move from a place of fear to a place of hope and solutions. Here on Your Mind.
Hope for the Day is a nonprofit movement empowering the conversation on proactive suicide prevention and mental health education. Hope for the Day is a 501c3 nonprofit organization founded in 2011 by Jonny Boucher. Well, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Wow, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to finally meet you. We've talked on the phone before, but I'm excited to hear about this. I was introduced to you by a friend, and I'm curious, how did you get into this work?
Like many people who are impacted in different ways, I lost my boss, Mike Scanlon, to suicide in 2010. Mike and I had worked in the concert promotion business for many years because my background before starting Hope for the Day was completely focused in the music industry, the place that I thought I was always going to be. And sadly, Mike, jumped off his fifth floor balcony here in Chicago, and it really opened my eyes to a lot of things, a lot of the pains that he was going through, a lot of the things that he was concealing deep down inside, covering up with things like, cocaine and alcohol abuse. But at the, bare bones of it all, Mike was the guy that I thought I wanted to become. He was my Robin Williams, and I wanted the lavish lifestyle. I wanted all that, and I wanted to keep putting on concerts because concerts just, are so important to me, and that community aspect has been such a huge part of my life for so long. So it opened my eyes to how scary it could be, but then it really got me thinking, and the bigger picture is that Mike is number 9 on a list of 16 people that I've personally lost to suicide. So at that point in time, I was also just, a year out of college, trying to figure out what my next move was. My dad and I had actually went down to Mexico, and we were starting to work on a line of tequila with a family friend at the time. And that's when I got the call about Mike. And I flew back from Mexico with a different perspective on life. And I told my dad I wanted to really take some time to challenge myself on what my next move really was going to be. So on May 25th of 2011, I officially filed and started Hope for the Day. And it was simply about empowering the conversation around mental health and suicide before it adversely impacts our lives. So, to answer your question, it's out of tragedy comes opportunity, and the opportunity is only truly taken advantage of if you look to see how this tragedy that's impacting your life isn't just impacting you, it's impacting so many. And if I have my choice, I'm going to live out all my days until I'm very, 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 very old, just letting people know it's okay not to be okay. Because that seems a lot cooler than, the life that I thought I really wanted, which, wasn't really what I had in my deck of cards. And I'm grateful for that. It's just, every day that I wake up, I'm not just fighting for those who we're currently, providing education or doing outreach with. It's for those who I've lost, and it's for the many people that we've all lost to suicide.
Well, that's a powerful story. I want to thank you personally for that. We're, as the Journey's Dream Team, actively trying to rewrite the narrative on mental health to one in which mental health is health and well-being, optimal health and well-being is possible and expected, and where these diversions from solid mental health become transformative rather than tragic.
Right.
And so it's a delight to find that there are more people out there like you doing this. So what can you tell us about what you've created here at Hope for the Day?
Well, I love telling the the real brass and tack story of how, when we got started, I just, needed to really dive in and figure out where our place in this community was, because as there's a lot of people that work in mental health, and there's plenty of work to go around. There's plenty of work to go around in suicide prevention as well. But at the end of the day, I saw an issue with how we address competitors in the mental health community. And so the first year and a half of, doing Hope for the Day, I had been closing a lot of the doors that I had still open in the music industry, from marketing and advertising contracts that I would do for major festivals to artist management and whatnot. So I had to still, spend some of my time during the day focusing on that as I was weeding it out. And the other time of the day that was always focused on getting to know who the community members were here locally in Chicago versus nationally, and also seeing is there, what kind of work is being represented internationally as well when it comes to mental health. So the first year and a half was really like a research and development phase, but it was also me compiling a list and really seeing who the players were, but also where could we serve the most? Because I didn't want to just compete with other people. I wanted to actually complement them, because one of the core values at Hope for the Day is community, and that's that we work in the community with the community, because it breeds collaboration. And the more that we've grown, the more that I've just seen that there's a lot of good that we can do, but sadly sometimes the people that are navigating at the the head of the ship have a different agenda. Maybe it's personal, what have you. But for us at Hope for the Day, we just want to be complementary to the entire community and lift up the community by our work, because we know that we can't be everything and anything to the whole mental health world. So if we just play our part and we help build those bridges to resources, if we provide and produce consistent education opportunities for communities, stemming from 5th grade students all the way to level 5, penitentiaries, that we can do exactly what we strive to do every single day, which is meet people where they're at and not where we expect them to be. And then focus on raising the visibility of those resources that are available in their community, because when Hope for the Day, closes up shop for the day and moves on to the next city, if we're doing a national outreach tour, which we've been doing for years, we need to know that the time that we invested in that community is actually going to be able to make impact and allow those people to be equipped with the tools to go back into their communities, their households, their schools, their places of work, and simply wrap their head around this idea that you can talk about mental health, and that mental health isn't scary all the time. There's good things and there's bad sides of it too, but it's really about creating balance. And that's really where, we thrive. So at the end of the day, Hope for the Day's mission is to empower, the conversation on proactive suicide prevention and mental health education. And we probably do it right now in 28 countries, but we do it by working with others to make sure that we're culturally appropriate, as well as we're doing things the right way and not right away just because, we want to be the first ones to talk about mental health in places like Rwanda. It's about really making sure that anywhere we go, we do the right job to figure out what the lay of the land is, because not everything is like here in America, especially when you're traveling internationally. So it's just making sure that it's appropriate and it's also respectful, because it's very easy to just say mental health is this one thing when it's really so complex, and people's experiences with trauma and just life in general help, navigate and build people's tool sets on how to, take care of themselves, or sadly build more masks. And it's a scary place in the world right now, but it's an important thing to know that what we're able to do is we're able to bring people together, and our goal is that they leave better, whether that's having more resources, having more tools in their toolbox and knowledge from our education, or knowing that if a point of crisis gets put, in front of them, that they can react to it in a proactive way and not a reactive way. Because you and I both know that in society right now, when do we talk about mental health, right? When do we talk about suicide? We only talk about it after some high level profile person dies or tries, or we hear about it in our neighborhoods and our communities, but it's still always in response to. So our job at Hope for the Day is try to get ahead of it and make it easier to talk about mental health so people can understand appropriately when it is time for them to ask for more help, which is okay to ask for help.
So you mentioned a tour and events. Can you give us an idea of what one of those events might be? Let's just keep it here in the U.S.
Yeah, 100%. So in 2014, we started working with Live Nation and the Vans Warped Tour, and we were bringing our message to over 500,000 youth just on one summer run. And, it was every day. It was in a different city and in a glorified parking lot with thousands of music fans. Because one of the things that I realized when I started Hope for the Day is that I had all these great opportunities still with working with my colleagues in the music industry and entertainment, that we could partner on things, and that if maybe they had a band or a musical act that was passionate about mental health, that we could team up on it. And that became a very, very, very good model for us to keep focusing on, because we were able to partner. I talk about it a lot already, is that, when we're able to partner, we're able to really make impact. So what we've really been known for, especially within our live concert and festival outreach, is having a 10-foot by 20-foot pop-up tent, half of it that just says a massive "It's okay not to be okay," which is Hope for the Day's copywritten slogan. And then on top of that, we speak from stage all the time. We create partnerships with artists and different bands to take the first minute or 2 minutes of their set and go out and talk to their fans and get the crowd riled up. So you could call it the hype man of hope, but it was really what I always said was we were going fishing, because we were presenting this message before a very, very important event for a couple thousand people. And then the band was able to reiterate, hey, if you give it up to our friend Jonny or whoever just came up on stage talking from Hope for the Day, their tent's right over there. And it was just about navigating people to those resources. And just by way of meeting people where they're at out on the road, we've been able to distribute millions of resources to people and just have conversations about life, and instead of it being being talked down to from a doctor or a therapist, it was having a conversation human to human, so then we could equip them with those tools to go out there and ask for that appropriate help, whether it's just simply seeking out a counselor, or maybe going a little further in depth and saying maybe I gotta explore my family's DNA and genetic history and everything, because I'm feeling some type of way. So it was just it's always about just inviting people to the conversation instead of isolating them. And we still have a massive presence within the Live Nation world. And it's simply because music is one of the many ways that we choose to express ourselves. And that's another, tool that we are constantly utilizing, is we're creating partnerships with things that people already relate to and resonate with when it comes to, taking care of themselves. So that's why we have our coffee shop, because coffee is such a huge, huge part of people's day, but it's also a great opportunity to have a conversation. We also are we're the only mental health organization in the entire world that proudly releases beers with craft breweries all around the country, and soon to be internationally, just because people are going to drink, and we could say that alcohol is a depressant, but if we're going to live by our rules here at Hope for the Day and meet people where they're at and not where we're expecting them to be, it'd be a disservice to only have booze at our gala to get our donors a little tipsy so they spend more money and we raise more money, when you can simply, present the conversation in so many different ways, and just let people know it's okay not to be okay. And I think that that's a beautiful thing, and that's where we're at in society right now, because sadly, whatever's been going on with mental health in the last, 40, 50 years has been great. We've been able to get a lot of research. We get to understand our brains a lot more, but it's still not, it's not going to be productive if you shame people. And I would rather, build more tables and chairs in this country right now instead of build more walls and kick people out.
Well, yeah, and what right on the primary page of your website, Hope for the Day or HFTD.org.
Yeah.
You talk about how the suicide completion rates have surged to a 30-year high. So despite whatever research about brain functioning and therapies, various therapies and there has been a tremendous amount of progress made, you still have to look at the results, and something's getting missed. And that's where I think an organization like yours, as you talk so clearly about going out and meeting people where they are, is so important. Another thing is that you've got a blog. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I mean, we push out a lot of stories. We love hearing from our community, and the thing about Hope for the Day is that at a high level, we are completely peer-led and lived experience based, but we have a clinical oversight committee that really regulates everything we do. So we really try to think outside the box with how the stories we're sharing, the inspirational stuff that people can really tangibly relate to. And with our blog, we've always had that be a beacon for really, really good testimonials of people who basically fell down and got back up. And that's the best way to always say it, because that's the journey of mental health, is that, you get to a point where you need to, you break down, you need to have that help. And so it's how you got back up and how you're pursuing it and how you're staying resilient is really important. But it's all about, our website serves as so many different tools for it as well, because you have the blog that's more like story sharing, and there's a bunch of stories that are about to come out here with a new program that we've been rolling on for a little bit. But on top of that, you can get educated from our website. You can find resources. You can find resources by typing in a zip code on our Find Help button page and seeing what's really around you. So it really comes down to our investment from our team is really into our community and giving them a tool that they can really rely on when the timing is rough for them. So it's about also presenting in a very fun and energetic way. And it is staggering, when you go on our website and you see, oh shit, 30 years, that's bad, that's real bad. But it's the harsh reality. And if we are going to get ahead of this situation, we need to understand the situation where it is now and where we're moving towards and what we're fighting against. Because before we were experiencing things with COVID-19, this was a big problem, and now we're seeing another surge of people reaching out to the hotlines and to support networks more than ever. And it's just because people are trying to figure out what's going on. And when we neglect our mental health and we start to neglect our physical health, things really, really do. They get hairy. So for us, everything that we do is we try to present it in a way that it allows people to feel invited to the conversation despite the things that they've been through.
Well, it's fabulous. I was, going through your site before, and I'm glad you brought this up. You have that link where if you say, get help, you type in your zip code, and it lists options for free or reduced food, housing, goods, transit, health, money, care, education, work, and legal. And it's quite an extensive list. If our listeners go there, again, it's HFTD, Hope for the Day. Is it .org?
Yep. .org. And if you just Google it, it's pretty findable. But it's and that's the bigger thing too, is that from a standpoint of this, since we're not we're not clinicians, but we do brush shoulders with a lot of clinicians, is that there's understanding that mental health is just it's not just able to be categorized anymore as depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, things like that. Like, we need to really look at all these things that shake up our bottle, really. And that's why when we we're looking for, how to build out the most robust resource system in America. It was, how do you showcase all the things that contribute to our mental health, and could also, be factors that would persuade us maybe not to get help, because sadly we always hear, well, there's no resources that I can afford, counseling's so expensive, all these other things. So it's really, how do you get to the front line of those service providers that can provide for you in this time of need, despite your situation? And that's always been our focus, is that where there's a will, there's a way. And we understand too that the process and the experience of getting to ask for help is terrifying, and we respect that. But if, we like to tell people all the time, is that if you're going to therapy and it's not working out, find a different therapist. That's fine. Like, that's okay. Like, a good counselor is going to say, you know what, I might not be a good fit for you. And, but it's because your journey shouldn't just end after seeing one person. Like, it's a reoccurring thing. And there's so many amazing service providers in your community. So it's just important to understand that help is a lot closer than you think.
Well, and I'm glad you're mentioning that. I tell people in a first session, even after they've come to see me, that in order to have any chance for success in therapy, you have to have two fundamental things: someone that knows what he or she is doing, and someone with whom you're comfortable. So you should literally be interviewing the therapist as the therapist is interviewing you, and figure out, if you don't have those two fundamental things, please feel free to search again. Because you can have the very best therapist in the world, but if you're not comfortable with her, you're not going to go to her long enough that she could help you, or tell her the things that she needs to know to help you.
Right.
And on the other hand, you can have your very best friend in the world and be up till 3 or 4 in the morning, several nights a week, talking about everything that's ever bothered you. And that's nice. It can be helpful, but that person doesn't have the professional distance and the professional training to do for you what a therapy can.
Yeah, absolutely. You're hitting such an important point. So we offer 1 hour and 4 hour mental health education workshops. And we touch on that point so often, that you, as the person that might be the listener for your friend, only have, oh so large of a capacity until your mental health and your sandbox starts to really get shook up. So it's important that you build those boundaries, and because that is being supportive in a really interesting way for your friend or family member who might need you. But it's also just the simplicity of listening non-judgmentally, really trying to allow that person to express themselves, so then you could be more helpful. And we talk a lot about asking what instead of why, simply because what screams solution, why screams guilt. And when you understand that, and then you also understand that you have your own boundaries, you have the ability to keep navigating the system with your friend or family member. And it comes down to this too. It's like, if one of your self-care tips is every day you go home and you snuggle your dog, and that helps you, that's great. But on the day that you are like, this isn't working, I'm going to my local pet shelter and I'm going to snuggle 100 dogs, and you snuggle 110 dogs because there's 10 more dogs that came in that day that need help, and it's not working, that is when you need to go, all right, what more should I be doing now? What further help? Maybe some professional help, because self-care comes in many different ways. And, so does therapy. But to get to that place of recognition, of understanding that, there might be a couple layers to this equation, and that, it's okay to ask for help, then you should be able to ask for help. But it's also on the person who's being the listener. It's a disservice to your friend or family member for you to be like, I'm good all the time, right? Like, call me whenever, because you might fall asleep. You might be, your phone might die, what have you. But if you give that, and the person, reaches out and they don't get that, as you know, doctor, like, that can cause people to, go back into that place where they feel like no one cares about me, I'm worthless, I shouldn't be here anymore. So by building out that in our education as a big real takeaway, so many people have been able to say, oh my gosh, I understand how to be so much more supportive for people in general just by having a boundary box, because it protects myself. Because we've also seen that other side of that too, where you are that go-to person for that person for so long, and then sadly the emotions change from compassionate to, all right, I'm kind of done with this, like, and then it's fine, figure it out on your own. And then that person goes right back to where they thought they, originally were, which was worthless, not worthy of living, and no one cares about them. So it's just so important that in everything that we just understand that we only have so much capacity, and regardless if we want to be superheroes or not, we're not.
So in this Find Help directory that you've put together, which is a wonderful thing, and it looks like it's fairly well populated, for somebody who's listening who might be a provider or might know of a program, how can they make sure they get listed in your Find Help directory?
Great question. So you can simply reach out to Hope for the Day and say, hey, I am a service provider. This is where I'm at. Basically give the 5 W's, who, what, where, when, why, how. And then from there, we communicate with our internal system to put any service provider that we work with in our system. And then it gets into a process that the reason why this system is really, really robust and works well is that because it has a consistent follow-up and just check-in with the service providers to make sure that they're still there, the hours haven't changed, maybe they're no longer accepting sliding scale or provide low-cost services. So it's just really about making sure that people are being presented with the most appropriate information, which becomes a very helpful give and get between Hope for the Day and the service provider. So please feel free, go on the Find Help page, and if you don't find your services listed on there, reach out to us and we will work with our platform here to get your services provided there, because we want people to know that they can ask for help anywhere in America and really anywhere in the world. But that's bigger fish to fry right now.
Right. I had the privilege of interviewing Dan Hostetler with the Above and Beyond Family Recovery Center earlier in this podcast series. And I was, pleased to be able to find their outpatient services listed in your Get Help directory. So
yeah, they're great folks, and we love working with them on so many different ways.
So you have a podcast. Is that the same thing as the blog?
No, we have a lot of different forms of media. So we have Conversations Cafe, which is it was really birthed out of our coffee shop, Sip of Hope, which we opened almost 2 years ago on May 1st of 2018 in the Logan Square neighborhood. And it's Sip of Hope as a coffee shop is an amazing place. We have front line resources there. All the baristas are trained in mental health first aid to just have very peer-based level conversations with our employees or with our staff and our community members. But it's it's really about the magic that comes out of there, and out of it was birthed Conversations Cafe, which is just simply our podcast to bring different intersections and communities together to talk about mental health, because mental health is so diverse. And it also just allows for us to have a live podcast in this coffee shop. But, right now, as we are recording this, we're the shop is closed. So we've been doing actually more Conversation Cafe recordings than ever. We do them every Thursday now, and we do them live so people can tune in live through our live stream of that. But then they're also all, available afterwards through, a really amazing platform. And the thing is that it grows so well because so many people are able to come there and find themselves there instead of it just being kind of a generic mental health podcast. So we really do a good job of trying to bring in as many folks from the community to give that perspective. Just because at the end of the day, I'm so proud to say this as often as I can that I'm a white privileged man who is never going to be able to understand how to navigate the world as a female, as a person of color, as someone from the LGBTQ community, as a unicorn, if anyone identifies as a unicorn. So it's like, it's a disservice if we just say that mental health is what you see right here. And you know, with our podcast, it's grown. We've gotten so many amazing different walks of life on there. And then on top of that, you know, during these, you know, pandemic times, we've launched a 2 times a week, we do a thing called Coffee Talk, which is just on our Instagram live with just friends of the organization, whether it's been, you know, creatives or people from, you know, bands and whatnot. It's just about, you know, constantly creating community wherever we go. And right now with, you know, how we're being told to stay home, it's really important that we, you know, are able to still provide those things and those great opportunities for people just to feel a little bit more normal. So it's exciting to know that we have, you know, those platforms also to, you know, dive into right now. And then on top of that, we're also offering our 1-hour mental health education workshop free to the public virtually twice a week on Tuesdays and Saturdays. And everyone can just, you know, show up and get involved, and our education team is amazing. So it's really,
so where does that happen? That's online right now?
Yep, absolutely. So everyone, you know, can go on to Peervention, which is PEERVENTION.org, Peervention, which is just our term for peer-to-peer proactive prevention. But peervention.org, and it takes you right there to the page to just register, and then you're able to get locked in, and you are presented an opportunity to get educated by one of our amazing team members, and it is just the start of your, you know, your journey with Hope for the Day. But it's
so is that a group online thing or a one-on-one?
No, yeah, it's a group. It's a group. We do limit them just because we want to make sure everyone feels seen and heard. But it is definitely a group thing. And then we do also offer for companies and workplaces the same opportunity as well to do privately.
So how do you get funding for all this work you're doing? Where's the fabulous website and these different programs and your staff? What, you know, if somebody wants to figure out how to support you and they don't have mental health expertise or experience with substance abuse or mental health issues, but they want to contribute, what's the way that you bring your money in?
So the you know, our accountant and our auditor always chuckle every year because we're a very unique organization. We actually don't receive any state or federal funding as an organization, which right now during these trying times is proving to be a big strength of ours because we do a lot of fundraising through third-party events with you know, a lot of our community partners, which we call Partners in Prevention. And that can be, you know, anything from raising money from, you know, releasing a beer to doing a big event to doing a bigger like online giving campaign with companies. So that's a big way that we drive revenue in. We have amazing donors. Anyone that, you know, donates $1 is part of that team, and all the way up, you know. So it's really about third-party donations, individual donors, and then we go after some grants, but at the end of the day, we really like to navigate and steer our ship. So it is important. So if anyone is interested in supporting Hope for the Day and the work that we do, we are obviously a tax-deductible charitable organization, and we also love to prove people where our money goes and how we spend it. We have 4 core values at Hope for the Day, which are really important. I already touched on one, which is community, but education is obviously a massive tool, and we really stand behind education as the way to really, for lack of better words, trump stigma, if you will. And then you have transparency. We understand that nonprofits for many years haven't been the most honest with where they put their funding and how they spend it. We like to be ultra transparent. So anyone who's a donor of Hope for the Days gets a nice report saying this is how we spent our money and this is the impact. because we really love to show the so what happened with your dollar. And then on top of that, tangibility. Tangibility is so key and so important to us because a lot of nonprofits don't understand how important this factor is. And when you neglect it, you miss a great opportunity to really, be able to allow people to feel that they're part of what we're doing here at Hope for the Day. So that's why we created, our coffee bag. That's why we do, we try to, provide great opportunities for people to make contributions and also receive merchandise, because people want to wear, things like this on their body, so it's great. So it's just about really being able to show that. But at the same time, we do have some programs for high-level donors that get to see a lot more underneath the hood and our projections and where we're heading. And it's a huge teamwork opportunity with our donors, and that's what we really love to do. So anyone that would love to, we invite you to not only invest in mental health with us, but also see the ROI, which is human impact.
Well, and I appreciate that the donate button is easily accessible and visible on your website. I've had some wonderful organizations that aren't that easy to find, so that's great. And if we look at wrapping this up, getting near the end of this interview, what's an area that I haven't even asked you about yet that you really want to make sure we get in here to our listeners?
Well, I think it comes down to this. I realized a long time ago that I wasn't the only one who has been impacted by mental health the way that I have been. And, it's not cool at all to say, oh, I've lost 16 people personally. It's some sort of Medal of Honor or something like that. It sucks, and all 16 of those people are just my people. I know countless of hundreds of thousands of people who struggle just because we've, spent so much time on the road and navigated the system of how to talk about mental health in 28 countries right now as an organization who is American based. And it comes down to just simply this, I knew that I couldn't be the only one, and I know that anyone who's listening, they've been impacted in some way, shape, or form, and I just hope that people can be inspired from the work that we do to go out and start their own version of Hope for the Day, whether that's fighting one of the other many different unfortunate diseases that impact our communities every single day, or by joining forces with Hope for the Day, because we are stronger together, and we've been saying this for years that we are in this together. And it's because I simply want people to know that out of tragedy comes opportunity, and it is up to you to make the impact and to have the voice of the voiceless be heard, especially if those people that you're trying to speak for are no longer here, because at one point in time they felt that it wasn't important that they're here. So it just comes down to, you can do anything that you want in life, and it may sound cheesy, but I started this organization out of absolutely nothing and gambled a lot on the probability of positive outcomes, and a lot of it has worked in our favor. It hasn't been easy. It's never gonna be easy, but if you're kind of hung up in the job or the place you're at in life right now, look to how you can take your time here on earth and make impact.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I appreciate your taking the time. I know you're busy. We tried to hook up a couple times before, and I appreciate that you did make the time for us and you're sharing the work you do. I also appreciate the fabulous website and the outreach programs. It's a pleasure to meet you and to know about this work. And I have a plan to reach out in about a year and see where Hope for the Day is, and do another interview. Yeah,
I can't wait. I can't wait, because right now the world is so unpredictable. But when you got when you got this tattooed on your knuckles, when you got have hope, you choose to think differently every single day, and I'm excited to have that conversation a year from now as well.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate you, sir. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Hope for the Day is a nonprofit movement empowering the conversation on proactive suicide prevention and mental health education. Hope for the Day is a 501c3 nonprofit organization founded in 2011 by Jonny Boucher. In 2010, Jonathan's boss and mentor, music festival promoter Mike Scanlon, completed suicide. He was the 9th person Jonny personally knew to have completed. Mike's passing was a final straw moment and compelled Jonny to take action. Hope for the Day was created as a way to honor not only Mike, but all of the friends and family members Jonny knew who had died by suicide. The organization began as a modest idea and put out flyers with national suicide lifelines and other resources to distribute them within the music industry venues around Chicago that Jonny was familiar with as a manager and promoter. Then, Jonny started getting on stage to say a few words and encouraging others to reach out for help. He noticed something kept happening. The more he spoke out, the more people would come forward to speak up, because he had pierced the silence surrounding mental health and suicide. He recognized that once the silence was broken, others felt empowered to communicate their own challenges.
You've been listening to the On Your Mind podcast, offered by Journey's Dream, where we support people through mental health challenges to a place of true and lasting well-being. If you love our show, we invite you to visit onyourmindpodcast.org to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our helpful resources. Thank you for listening.